We are back. Welcome to eCommerce Matters, brought to you by BlackCurve. This is season 2. BlackCurve help e-commerce businesses understand their competitor data and use price to improve digital marketing performance. As ever, I'm joined by my sidekick, Dr. Rob Horton, or Rob Horton. He's dropped the doctor, and he's product-led Rob these days. So welcome, Rob. Did you miss it? Have you missed it?
It's very surreal doing this in person. We've done like 100 hours, I think, but that was all over Zoom through lockdown and the rest of it. But yeah, it's fun. It's good to be back.
It's good to be back. We've kept the social distancing slightly. So we've got to keep him on the other side of the desk. Absolutely. So for season 2, episode 1, I thought we'd start with this title: Unlock, Improve CPA with Pricing. What do you think?
This has been a bit of a change for us at BlackCurve. We spoke about it last season, towards the end, bits and pieces about kind of the impact of pricing on your marketing spend and how all that fits together. And actually, we've been in the tank a bit and going away and working with our existing customers and users, and there really is something to that. It's probably best to start with explaining like what exactly we view CPA as, or what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's a good place to start. So CPA, cost per acquisition, very much a term which is used a lot inside the digital marketing space, digital marketing arena. A lot of times when digital marketers are explaining to their customers, whether they be from an agency or whether or not they're a marketer inside, in our particular case, a retailer, they live and breathe by CPA. So if you can reduce your cost per acquisition, so in a retailer's viewpoint, that is how much does it cost to find that customer and get them all the way through to them actually checking out and using your product. So there's a lot that goes into it, and one of the methods that you use, obviously, is the digital marketing arena. So Google Ads, Google Shopping, and it's the cost per click, I suppose, the cost per click to get them to the point of converting at the checkout.
Yeah, which makes sense, right? I mean, you might be sitting there thinking, well, we do ROAS, right? We think about the return on ad spend, but it's for what we're going to talk about today, it's all the same. It's like there is an inherent cost that you have to pay, in effect, to get a transaction, to get someone buying stuff, especially in the digital space, which is heavily competitive. And really, it's not massively surprising that price plays a large part in that journey. For a large number of products, we've spoken about this before, why you need to be competitive and all the rest of it. Price is a discriminating factor. Do I buy from vendor A, from vendor B? It's both equivalent in terms of brand positioning, the rest of it. Well, I'm just going to buy the cheaper one if I'm buying the classic Dyson Hoover that I seem to always be looking for. I'm buying a brand. I'm buying Dyson, and actually who's selling it doesn't mean as much to me because I'm buying the quality assurance from the brand rather than the company that's doing it. And so if you fold that into kind of your acquisition model, of course price plays a part, because at some point someone is going to make a buying decision and price will be a factor in it. So that was really like our first hypothesis, I guess. But the really interesting thing, the thing that I think we'll drill into a bit later, is that it's not just the buyer that's taking price into account. It's other parts of that ecosystem are also using price, and so whether you're price competitive or not will actually directly impact how effectively your money's being spent for a whole number of reasons.
So it might be worth talking about the fact that price isn't the only thing that influences cost per acquisition, but a lot of retailers and digital marketers, interestingly, spend countless hours, days, weeks obsessing about cost per acquisition, but a lot of the time price isn't on their list of things that they explore in which to optimize, right? So in the things that influence cost per acquisition are making sure you've got the right copy on your website, okay? Because if you've got good SEO, you don't actually have to spend as much money to get, Google thinks that you're a better search result to return to the user, therefore you don't need to spend as much money on getting the user to that particular page. And there's a whole host of things that contribute to it. But actually, price, the research that we're doing, and we're working with a lot of customers and in this space, is that price does actually seem to be a deciding factor well, not deciding factor, but a huge factor in a contributing factor to improve the cost per acquisition.
There's 2 points to unwrap there, I think. The first one is that price has become a significant factor since a lot of the advertising bidding has become handled by AI, because price competitiveness is now a feature in many of the algorithms. So that you had the human element that we spoke about at the beginning, but also now when you're bidding for an advert, Google's a good example, one we know relatively well, and it's scoring your relevancy. Price competitiveness is a factor that goes into that relevancy scoring, basically, and then how much you have to pay for the ad. Well, that's actually, it's not how it's the better way of thinking about it, and the thing that we've had to learn actually at BlackCurve, because we come from like a saving cost kind of way, is that actually it's optimization. It's if the products that are priced more competitively are likely to have more ad spend put behind them, so you get the snowball effect in the pricing world, where like we think you should be pricing competitively anyway from a market theory perspective, and then this is getting a snowball being built by the advertising providers, say Google, because they're then saying, oh, you are priced competitively, we think you're more relevant, we'll put you in front of more people, you get more eyeballs, and then because you're priced competitively, you're more likely to convert, because that's the virtuous circle, right? So that's why price is important. The interesting thing I think we found is that like there's I joke about separation of church and state, but like it's usually that people obsess about things they can control, and often it's difficult for advertising agencies who are managing the digital spend for a lot of our clients to get visibility on, I'm going to call it true price benchmarks, because we can maybe go into the Google ones a bit later, but true price information, and likewise for the ecom professionals, getting actual like good attribution on the advertising spend is difficult. So there's kind of this gap in the middle that we like to think we're breaching, really.
So it's about bringing your price, so it's your price against your competitor's price, so what we term as the trying to find the market price for this product, and working out at what point in the market that price needs to sit in order to get the conversion, the cost per acquisition at a better rate, I suppose. Is that
kind of. But really, the interesting thing I think is that like it is that, but the real effect is that actually price positioning basically has a much larger impact on advertising spend than we'd certainly previously thought. And the detail of it really matters, because it's so sure, being competitive is a good first step, right? Build the snowball, get it behind you, but like you want to then optimize as much as possible. And actually, some of the data that I've looked at, pricing to the average is not necessarily a good approach. So if you're in the kind of FMCG, fast-moving consumer goods space, where really you're competing on min margin, like operational efficiency is your competitive element, right? It doesn't matter if you're priced to the average, because whoever's lowest is going to win the market, right? Like if I'm a fiver less and I'm buying some kind of, not necessarily Dyson Hoovers, but like some.
I always think of WD-40 or something.
Yeah,
that's got
really
no
good
brand
one.
loyalty necessarily.
Exactly, like and low cost and less impactful buying decision for a consumer, which, to be fair, I think is probably most sales now in a post-COVID home shopping kind of world. there being the cheapest by a quid or 99p or whatever is super impactful. So you can think, oh, I'm getting all these impressions, I'm getting eyeballs on my product, but your conversion may be awful, right? Because like you're not looking at the price data behind it, or you think you're priced to the average. And there is actually, that's kind of, these are the levers that then we can pull that traditionally people in that space can't. So that for me is like the super exciting bit, is because we still get to lean on the kind of price optimization where we are the experts and we know what we're doing. It's just that the impact is very different to what we originally thought.
So it's product to product. It's certain products might be the average or the market price is the sweet spot. Other products, it's the lowest price. And actually, interestingly, what we also find is that it's not all. You don't always have to have the market price. You know, you can sometimes be more expensive, and because you've done really well in the other areas of your business, that actually you can be more expensive because you're converting better. Your cost per acquisition doesn't suffer as much. You know, maybe a silly example could be if you're just launching a shop that sells TVs online, right? No matter what you do, it's going to cost you more to bid on certain keyword terms because your footprint's not there and your you know, all the other bits that are not there to support that cost at the acquisitions. But one thing which I think I'm particularly interested in, and certainly in our early research when we talked about trying to save retailers money, but actually is the term wastage, I guess. So
yeah, it's inefficiency. It's I think it's a really good way of viewing it. It's like you're overspending. Everyone is like, advertisers are always going to spend all the money you give them. It's just the performance you get out of it. So it's not like you kind of you achieve the same results and I don't know, Google AdWords comes back to you and says, oh, we've saved you 20 grand this month, here you go. Like, well done. We're not spending that. It's like it's really an optimization game. It's like, how do I increase the impact for that? So I think wastage is there's two really powerful things, actually. There's wastage, which is the obvious, and there's also opportunities, because it's super positive. It's like you, for whatever reason, you may view certain products as you not worth bidding on, but it might be you're super price competitive on it, and then there's a market for it. So the cool thing for me is that we can highlight this. We can say, like, look, we think you're overspending here because you've got 4 competitors below you and you're spending a lot of money, and we're seeing, I mean, we've got the sales data too, right? So we can, I'm not going to get into the attribution conversation today, but like by and large, we can see that like this advertising is not working for these products, whether they lead on to other sales or whatever. I mean, marketing attribution is something that's difficult, something I want to stay away from. But and the flip side of it is that, like, try these, test these. Like, I mean, in a marketing world of try, test, learn, right? Well, here's 20 products that we think there might be more of a market for, or whatever. And that for me is the real power for this. It's like it's an insights piece that like makes you go and ask questions, right, and folds it back into your business. And then you can then bolt on the other extras that we do, automated pricing and all the rest of it, because they have other improvements that we've done before. But like, the cool thing about this is that it sparks a conversation, like Monday morning, what are we going to do about these 3 products?
I mean, let's explore that concept of overspend in a bit more detail, just to make sure we're all aligned, and the people listening are aligned as well. Let's say overspend. What examples of overspend would there be?
Well, the key example for me is that, like, it's just trying to push a product that won't sell. I mean, it's really like, it's not rocket science. It's just that, like, you can't, for whatever reason, be price competitive on a product, and unfortunately, conversion on that product is driven by price, right? But it may, depending on how your advertising strategy is set up, just be in a bucket where you allocate a certain amount to it, or you're expecting a certain return of ad spend, and that return on ad spend is capping out too early. That's the other side we see it, in that actually you can, if you're targeting a certain ROAS, and this does get back into the kind of saving money bit, in that we've seen 50% less spend generate the same results just through pricing. I mean, I have data on that. It sounds like a bullshit. Sorry, excuse me. It sounds like a nonsense stat, but like we see that just because pricing has that level of impact. So when we say overspend, that's what we mean. You're kind of almost like trying to push a boulder up a hill. That's the image in my head anyway.
So the person responsible for digital marketing is effectively spending money on a product which, if we look at a pricing perspective, that product matched against competitors is way out of whack.
Yeah.
And so that indicates to us that actually people are voting with their clicks based on price. So no matter, you can keep spending money on it, but it's just simply going to cost you a lot to convert. And what we mean by a cost a lot to convert is put that product at the right position within Google Shopping, make sure it's top of the list. You're spending more and more and more to get it up there. So what our suggestion is, actually, what I'm hearing is to flag those products to users and use that spend would be better elsewhere. Is that where we're getting to?
We're just saying experiment, right? Like, I mean, this is because markets move, or there may be other reasons, but like, effectively, we're kind of saying that there's no reason not to kind of tweak the parameters a bit and see if it makes an impact. Like if you're doing it.
So almost bring, then you come full circle, you close the loop. You might not necessarily switch off the marketing, but you use the competitor pricing data, you bring the price down a nudge, see the impact that makes on
I'll
cost
give
per
you
acquisition.
I'll give you an actual practical example because that's probably easier. So you can basically do a RAG score on price competitiveness. It's not hard if you've got the data, or we can provide you that score. We can talk about that later, but like, based on that, you can upload that into Google in custom columns and do a segmentation on it. Or if you're running a more sophisticated system, you can fold that into whatever other algorithms you're running. And then you can play with that, right? And you can test. And you should be, digital marketing, you should be testing and learning it anyway. And price banding is a fairly reasonable thing to test on, right? I mean, you do it whether you think about it or not with your shipping. Like you price band, you say, well, here, these I just have to suck the margin up, and these I don't, right? Because these are just really heavy goods, and they're cheap, and I'd sell a lot of them, but people come through and they buy these, and then they buy something else. I've got an example in my head that I'm really trying not to say, but because it will give some stuff away. But basically you can have low cost heavy goods. But those low-cost heavy goods lead to conversion of low margin heavy goods leads to conversion of higher margin goods, right? And so you need to be able to suck the cost up on shipping cost up on one for the other. It's the same with digital marketing. It's the same using price in your strategy. That's all we're saying here. Like, we have examples. We've worked with people. We've seen major impact. But it's the point of this really is that I don't know your setup, but for everything I've seen, you should be thinking about price, no matter what you're doing, I guess.
And also might be the other flip side of it is overspend can happen where actually you are really competitive priced, right? As in we've seen a number of instances whereby the folks responsible for digital marketing haven't realized or haven't got access to that data set, whereby they're actually priced, they're the cheapest in the market by some way. Yet the level of spend is consistent for if they were average in the marketplace, right? So you have an opportunity to lower your spend on those products, because by naturally people are voting with their clicks because they see that you're the cheapest. So you don't need to spend as much to be higher, because the Google algorithm is saying, well, actually, do you know what, this is a good product to surface within Google Shopping to the end consumer because it is competitively priced. So it's almost it's the wastage at the top and the bottom end, is it?
Everywhere. Like if I'm really honest, but I think you hit the nail there, because it's really just only looking at marketing metrics in your marketing strategy, I guess is the kind of drum we're beating is a bad thing, because we've pulled out a number of examples, but unless you're looking at price and optimizing with price in mind, you're just going to be inefficient across the board. So it's top, bottom, middle. I mean, that's what's so powerful about it, really, is it's the whole distribution. It tightens everything up. So if you think that, like, I'm going to use a metaphor, I'll try, but it's like classic optimization, right? I'm trying to roll my boulder up to the top of the hill, and I need to balance my boulder on the top of the hill. I need to do that for every single product. What we're basically saying is that price moves every product in your inventory further up to the top of that hill. It's like top end, bottom end, all of them, because realistically, if you're not priced efficiently, it affects conversion of everything all the way up the funnel.
But yeah, because actually the Google algorithm is not necessarily just looking at that particular product. It's looking at where you're priced across the board in other products. So actually by making you more efficient at the top end and the bottom end, it benefits everything, and it becomes that snowball, that flywheel, whichever terminology you'd like to use, how you're feeling that day of the week. So that's really exciting. So it's about bringing together pricing. It's the unlocking and making you aware of that data set and almost putting it on top of impressions, click-through rates, cost per acquisition, those data points, and marrying the two and seeing where you've got opportunities to tweak and optimize.
I think my challenge, or my challenge to anyone listening who's in those conversations, would be, are you bringing price up, right? So when you're thinking about a spend decision or any decision in that space, at some point, are you asking, where is this product priced, probably in relation to its competitors, right? Like, that should be your first question. And if you're not, you are really missing a trick. Right?
Because you've probably got a playbook as long as your arm of things to optimize, but price is a huge lever in that. So if you're not, why not?
Yeah.
Okay. So that sounds awesome. So how do, from a BlackCurve perspective, if listeners like kind of what they hear, how easy is it to get hold of this data? Is it quite straightforward? Is it take a 6-month project? How do people go about it?
Our kind of mission now is that we kind of feel like there's no reason that people shouldn't have that data instantaneously. And so that's what we're driving for. I mean, at the minute, if you speak to us, we can send you a link, put your products in, you click to link your Google AdWords account, because that will give us the advertising data we need, and you'll have these data within 24 hours, 48 hours, depending on the coverage we have of your product set already and how much we need to gather and where the data is. But no, like the longer term, there's no reason that this couldn't be in minutes. And the other thing is, if I was a consumer in this space, I would be starting to expect that kind of experience, because like the classic SaaS thing now is like 14-day trials or whatever, or do you want to spend like 2 weeks? I mean, the worst case in pricing, like traditional pricing, is it's like 3-4 months implementation. Like, we were guilty of this very much. And then you get to the end of the project and you've learned a bit along the way and then realized it doesn't work for you, and we've lost a load of time, you've lost a load of time. It's not worth it. So no, the answer is, like, at BlackCurve currently we can get you up and running within 24 hours, 48 hours. Longer term, it should be down to 10 minutes, 5 minutes. Really. So, and then you can see it and listen to what we say and look at the data you get back and say, is what they're saying make any sense to me? Does that line up? Or thanks, I'll move on my way.
So it's stage one, it's just create an account, right, on the self-service workflow, and then stage 2 is selecting if you want to just simply upload a CSV of your products, or the easiest way is to connect your Google content API.
Yeah, exactly. We're just trying to sit within the Google ecosystem. So you can either upload a CSV, Google Sheet, or go through the content API. The schema, so the data just needs to be in the same format that it is for your Google feed. So if you want to try it out, you can just copy the file over and upload it. We basically do the rest. There are a few settings and tweaks it's often good to do, but like we're not pushing prices to you in that process. We're not going to do any damage. We're not updating it. We're only reading from your feeds. So the worst that can happen is your dashboard looks a bit weird. And then I think the other thing we've learned is that, like, there's not a one size fits all in terms of configuration. So you may want to exclude certain competitors or only include certain competitors. You may want marketplace data like Amazon, eBay, or you may not. It really depends. You may want to separate that out into another channel and look at that separately. All of this is now kind of possible within BlackCurve, but we kind of leave that to you because we just provide you the tools to do that, and then make you getting the data really easy and get the value over to you as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I mean, we're mining millions and millions of SKUs, but your particular industry we may have not got to yet. So please do bear with us. But as soon as you've given us those product sets, what's the expectation of people have to wait if we don't have that competitor data out of the gate?
It's between 24 and 48 hours currently, but it's worth saying that that's just a one-off wait. That's not after that. You will just get daily data. So it's just a spin-up time really, because we basically have to catalogue your SKUs internally, and that takes a bit of time because there's quite a lot of processing. And then after that, you're up and ready to go. So, I mean, the best thing to do with this kind of stuff is set off on a Friday, come back Monday, you'll be up and running.
And you're good to go. So it's all the pre-validation, and once that validation happens every day for that product, assuming it's sold on Google Shopping, is there every day. The latest price is available to users. And what kind of experience do people have of BlackCurve? Do they have a dashboard to access? What's their first sort of experience of us?
We do both dashboard and reporting. So we have kind of like a dashboard cockpit, which is very much like for you to drill in and go, where this product is now, or where does it sit next to the other people? Who are these other competitors? Where are they positioned relative to me? And then we have a reporting function, which is kind of the more, I would say, bread and butter, like this supports those meetings or those conversations. Okay, BlackCurve is flagging these 20 opportunities for us today. It's just a kind of classic portfolio management piece. Like, these are our winners, these are our losers. Because like as a human, you kind of want to automate the middle of we've spoken about this before, but automate the middle of distribution and deal with the edges, like the long tail either side. Well, the tails either side really, and just be like, okay, these are the ones I'm worried about, and these are the ones where I think there's opportunity, and off we go.
Well, especially if you've got thousands of products, right?
Yeah,
you need to work on anomalies or outliers.
That our average SKU count per client is like 10,000 SKUs. This is not necessarily the case. Like, you don't need that. You could happily run BlackCurve and get these reports out with 5 SKUs. I mean, like, just because of the intersection of data, it's a useful thing to have. But yeah, I mean, if you've got 10,000 SKUs, you need someone, or you need to be flagging an ecosystem that's flagging kind of what to look at and what not to look at. And that doesn't really matter whether you're ecom professional, like advertising, digital marketing, I should say, rather than Mad Men.
It'll work for them as well.
yeah, but it would, right? I mean, that's I think that's the interesting piece, and the thing to take away. It's like, this information is useful whether you're automating it or not. Like, the automation thing is a completely separate conversation and has
automating the resulting pricing decision. Yeah.
Well, anything, not just pricing decisions, but automating the
the spend. Yes, right. Yeah.
And any decision based off the back of it, because I think that's kind of worth having a chat around. Is that there's always, quite rightly, I think, a lot of worry around automation, especially when you're a business at scale where, like, you can't soak up a significant loss because something goes wrong, or just write it off. And so that's kind of the real power for this for me, is that you can kind of build that human process in, get that kind of comfort out of it, and then actually a BlackCurve flick of the switch, you can automate that process. Like, pricing decisions is a really good example. That's being brought into this framework over the next few months. That is a really nice gateway to, like, okay, I've got this is my report showing suggested price changes. I can then chop and choose and pick the manual ones, put them in manually, pick the ones I like, and then when you get comfortable with that, you can then integrate, and then it will do the whole lot automatically. And you can do both, or neither, or whatever, right? So that's the real power of it, is that thinking around how to use these insights, whether you're automating the insights or not, is kind of by the by, and probably something that we've had to learn internally as well as I think externally.
Yeah, and in terms of using those insights, there's different personalities, isn't there? So some people love a visual dashboard, and that's available for people that want it. Others want an on-demand report that they download, and others don't want to log into BlackCurve. They just simply want an email which tells them what they need to do each day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're never going to get me out of a spreadsheet in the nicest way or a glorified spreadsheet, because really what I need is a database, because that's my process and how I'm used to working. I'm not very graphically minded in terms of like I'll plot graphs for analysis and the rest of it, but they tend to be quite specific, whereas other people are much more visually in tune. So it's kind of, for us, it's like there is no right or wrong in that. It's just how do you want to consume it, and we'll provide it for you, really. Like the data and the kind of insight and the calculation that we're doing is all the same. It's just the representation of that and the way you act it. And obviously, dashboards are better for certain things than others, like spot checking dashboards are loads easier, whereas automating a process and building that into an external business function, you're going to want a CSV of it.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you, Rob. So I think in conclusion, fundamentally, I loved what you said earlier. I probably won't be able to say it word for word, but if you're a digital marketer, whether or not you're in-house or you're working for a marketing agency, if you're not looking at price, why not? Because it's a huge lever in order to improve, whether you're driven by cost per acquisition, or whether you're looking at return on ad spend, or whether you're looking at improving your impression share. Whatever the metric that you're looking to optimize, price is a huge contributor to, and is one of the main contributors towards that. So if you're not, why not? And in terms of BlackCurve, we can support you in that journey. We can provide you with access to that pricing information, and you don't even need to be logged. If you're a marketing agency, you don't even need to be logged into the systems that you're working towards. We kind of operate outside of that. That's the kind of beauty of it, that we can provide you, often within 24 hours, access to competitor pricing information. And then once you plugged in your Google Ads account, you then overlay all of those really nice Google metrics, which then support you to make decision making based on where you put your spend from a digital advertising perspective. And then if you want to move towards doing the complete flywheel, where do you look to change your price in order to see if changing your price has that influence on those digital marketing metrics. So, well, thank you very much, Rob. Is there anything else that you want to say, or is that a good summary?
No, I think it's good. I think the only thing I'd add is you can do all that without having to talk to any of us.
So there is a link that you can go to. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Rob, for joining me today. We've been BlackCurve, and this is our podcast, E-Commerce Matters. BlackCurve helps e-commerce businesses understand their competitors and use pricing to improve their digital marketing performance. Until next time, take care.